Now we'd like to welcome to the stage Erin Carlson, Associate Director, Strategic Planning for MMGY.
As Bob mentioned, my name is Erin Carlson. I'm Associate Director at MMGY. MMGY is an integrated marketing firm who focuses solely on travel and tourism in the hospitality industry. We have an overarching goal of inspiring people to go places. That's all that we do, and since for the past 3 years that I've been working with the Myrtle Beach team, I've been lucky enough to be working on inspiring people to come to Myrtle Beach. Going into the current state of travel, one of the things we publish at MMGY is our Portrait of the American Traveler study that we publish on a quarterly basis. That study surveys about 4,500 active U.S. leisure travelers each quarter to take a look at what are some of the behaviors they're anticipating on taking over the course of the next 12 months, as well as what has been some of their past travel behaviors and intentions as well. So a lot of the data I'm going to walk through is from that particular study from our spring edition of the report, which was published in March. So to start us off, the Traveler Sentiment Index, or the TSI, is something that MMGY has been calculating since March of 2007. It is a calculation that takes a look at the overall sentiment that Americans have towards travel and travel planning activities. It's compiled of 6 different variables. It's interest in travel, time available for travel, perceived safety of travel, perceived affordability of travel, personal finances of travel, and the quality of service. Within those 6 variables, we then calculate what the total TSI is. Right now, for the spring edition, we're looking at a TSI at 109 points. As we can see, over the past year, since the same time last year, the TSI has taken a little bit of a dip, about 15 points, and that was primarily driven during this past summer when news around inflation and economic concerns was really heavy in the news cycle, which was impacting American sentiment towards travel. However, over the past quarter, we're seeing a little bit of more of a positive trajectory with a 2-point increase in the Travel Sentiment Index since we surveyed the group in December, which is a really great correlation. And if I look at the different components of the TSI, we're actually seeing the 2 variables that I mentioned related to finances, so perceived affordability of travel and personal finances available to travel, go up, which is great because those were some of the indicators that really brought down the TSI this past summer. Separately, if we look at the Travel Sentiment Index among those that say they are interested in visiting Myrtle Beach in the next 12 months, which is represented by the orange line on this slide, and those that are not interested in visiting Myrtle Beach, we see a considerable difference between our Myrtle Beach prospect and their sentiment towards travel. This helps show that our Myrtle Beach traveler, they're much more resilient, much more passionate about travel, willing to kind of forego some of the concerns that other populations may have and still prioritize travel. So as we can see here, compared to that previous chart, the Myrtle Beach TSI is up 19 points compared to the average U.S. Leisure vacationer. Compared to those that are not interested in visiting Myrtle Beach, we're up 24 points. Additionally, kind of tying into our Myrtle Beach traveler being a little bit more resilient and passionate traveling audience, when we take a look at the number of trips that our Myrtle Beach prospect intends to take over the next 12 months, we're looking at about 4.5 anticipated trips. That's about 1 a quarter. The number of trips has stayed fairly consistent year over year, but what has not stayed consistent is their anticipated spend. As we can see, last year, the Myrtle Beach prospected traveler was anticipating to spend almost $2,900 on travel over the course of the year. But this year, that has actually increased 66%, and they're now anticipating to spend nearly $4,800 on travel. This increase in spending could be because of a few different things. One, they may be more likely to take more expensive trips than they had planned for last year. Or 2, it could be due to inflation and travel costs, and they're just much more willing to put away the money to prioritize travel in their household's budget. Either way, it's good news for us as a destination. So some of the challenges and opportunities that I wanted to talk to you about as it relates to things going on in the marketplace that really bring forth opportunities for us as a destination, the continued impact on inflation of travel and travel behaviors. What are some of the attributes that are popular in driving destination influence? So what is influencing them on where they want to go and what they want to do? And then what are some of those sources and mediums that travelers are taking into account and using to make those trip planning decisions or just, driving inspiration? So I'm going to make this a little interactive. I would like you guys to shout out the answer to this question if you feel inclined. What do you think are the top 3 reasons top 3 things out of this list of 5 that U.S. adults are deciding to spend less money on in order to save? Clothing. Alcohol. Maybe some households, not mine. All right, the answer is actually treats and luxuries and nights out and dining. So as we can see, vacations are on here, but there's a pretty sizable difference in the percentage of travelers that are willing to cut back in other areas of their life before they're willing to cut back on vacations. And when we talk about treats and luxuries, that's like, you know, getting your hair done an additional time, signing up for those subscription boxes, things like that. Okay, so what we know from that, as I mentioned, and as Farah had mentioned in the Google presentation as well, the prioritization of travel is continuing. That's a trend that we saw for the Myrtle Beach prospect last year and is something that we're really continuing to see in 2023 and expect to continue to see in 2024 as well. For those households that do say that they have economic concerns that are driving them to make changes in travel, they're likely to make changes not to cancel those trips, travel closer to home, opt in for road trips, maybe select less costly activities to do in destinations or stay in less costly accommodations so they can still prioritize that trip because it's important to them and their households. One of the other questions we ask in the Portrait of the American Traveler study is related to what are the types of activities you want to do when you're on vacation. There's a list of about 30 of them as part of that. And over the past few quarters, we've seen a sizable growth in percentages among 15 of those, indicating that travelers are wanting to pack more experiences and activities into each trip. So, you know, they're willing to spend a little bit more on vacation, but they're packing as much as they can do as well. So what does that mean for us? The vacation mindset is real. I think people are, you know, they may be cutting back on spending in their daily lives, but vacations and when they're in destination, it kind of gives them a little bit of a release to go big. They're spending a little bit more on dining. I know some of the reports that the Zartico team has shared with us in the past, we see people that are coming to events and they are opting to spend more on food and beverage and retail experiences when they're in the destination. Maybe they didn't originally plan to do that, but it certainly gives us the opportunity to upsell travelers and visitors in the destination to have some of those experiences and build upon the memories that they have in Myrtle Beach. We also have the opportunity to continue to highlight how Myrtle Beach is a high-value destination. There's a lot of things to do and see and experiences to have here among our 14 communities. You know, one of the things that, you know, in addition to that, not only is there a lot of things to do, but you can have a lot of variable price points of activities as well, even for our travelers that may be a little more price conscious. So from a package and offering standpoint, one of the things to consider may be pairing more high-cost activities with a low-cost item, helping show our travelers and our visitors the variety of things that they can experience that won't make them feel like maybe they overindulge, and tying back to what Stuart was talking about in the afterglow effect, leave them feeling really good about the decisions they made in destination and the activities they chose to do. What do the following destinations have in common? Some of these lists seems pretty similar as beaches. That is correct. They're all beach and coastal locations, but they're also